Good morning, Judy here from Thistledew Creations. Today I'm going to do just some tags and journaling cards, but I'm going to do them in a little different style than I normally do. I watched a video from Inked Paper Art, 365 Days of Junk Journal Ideas, how to make stamped receipt paper ephemera, mixed media art. That was the name of the video. I had to go and look it up because I can never remember what I watched and I can never find it again. But I had commented on the video on YouTube and she had replied to me. So I found it in my emails where they send you the email saying someone replied to your comment or whatever. So she had started with gluing down some book page onto coffee dyed cardstock to make her tags. I've already got some book pages and some music paper already onto file folders. So that's where I'm starting. So right off the hop, it's a little different. Plus, I'm not doing the stamped part, I don't think. I'm going to just cut up some tags and try this different collage technique, which is what really got me in her video. So that's the inspiration for it, but I'm doing my own twist on it, which is what I would normally do anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a clean edge here. This is just file folder that I collaged on just one day when I didn't know what I wanted to quite do. So I'm just gonna give it a crisp cut edge. I could have just left it a rough edge, but I'm feeling like I want it to be a nice square tag. And I'm just going to cut a few out of this and a few out of the music. So let's do them. I can go up to 2.5 inches and use my tag punch. So let's do one at 2.5. Let's make them all 2.5 because, or not all of them, but let's make a few 2.5s because the collaging that I want to do needs some width. And then let's do a nice journaling tag to coordinate with this. Let's do it like a postcard size. We'll do 4 by 6. See if we can get 2 4 by 6s out of this. As you can see by the fodder on my desk, I've got a bunch of different textures set aside. So there's a 4 by 6. And then what does that leave me with this leftover piece? I want to just square up this edge. It's going to leave me about 4 by 5.25. Let's just make it 5. 4 by 5. So I'm going to get 2 tags out of this. So let's see, both of these edges are rough. Just smooth that edge up. I'm not even going to worry about the other one because it's so close to the edge, inking will hide it. But let's just make this into 2 tags. We'll do a 6-inch one and then whatever's left over. And then I'll save this. It could become a page edger if I collage more on top of it. And then this music one, we'll do the same thing. We'll smooth out our, actually on this one, why don't I leave it rough edges? Of course, then I can't get rough edges everywhere, only on one side. So we'll go ahead and, this trimmer is working a lot better since I cleaned out the groove. I thought there was something wrong with my blade because it was catching all the time and not giving me a smooth cut. But then I realized that this groove that the blade runs in was full of lint from the paper. So you can see when you run a sharp thing down that groove, you get a lot of debris out, and that will make your paper trimmer run smoother if you do that every once in a while. So then I'll square this edge up. And again, I'm going to cut 2.5, get my tags, and then I'll do a 4. Save that aside. It might be the next video. Got a good cut edge there, so I'll go 4 by 6. And then whatever's left, I'll just maybe do another 5-inch one here. It's going to work out the same. Of course, they were the same to start with, weren't they? They were both file folders. Okay, so that gives me my bases. And I'll do my tab tops while I still can. Once it gets too thick, this won't do them. So, oh, I didn't cut that one. Let's see what we got here. I'll cut this one about here. And then I'll just cut that other rough edge off, although I probably don't even need to. Put that through the punch, it would take care of it. Stuff everywhere, just the way we like it, right? So this is 1 layer of file folder, and then 1 to 2 layers of paper, depending on if it's got an overlap on it. Now I've cut that at 2.5, but it's just a little wide to go in here. So I need to trim it if I want to use this, and I do. I like this shape of tag with the curved top. So I'll put it in here. It's a little more accurate, and get myself that 2.5 inch that fits in here. Let's see. Yeah, see, that's just a little wide as well. See how the other ones are while I've got this up here. That one looks okay. And that one looks okay. Let's see. I find these punches, I mean, I know that they say you can sharpen them with, what do they say? Tin foil. Cut tin foil and it'll sharpen it, but I haven't found that to be terribly effective. One thing I found was that if you pull, it kind of comes out, and then you might just have to break off some little sections. And then you can go around with your teeny scissors and just get those little bits off. It'd be nice if you didn't have to do that, but I've found that you do have to do that. And if sometimes doesn't want to release, just give it a tap and it'll release. There, that one came out better. And then you have to get these little pieces out as well. Sometimes they don't pop out automatically. And I don't save these. I just don't have enough places to save all the little things. And then this one, I never paid attention to whether my writing was going up right, but it is anyway, so that's fine. And then the music was on a diagonal, so it's not as crucial which way it goes. Punch heard me talking about it and decided to behave. Didn't like being punched back. There. That worked better. Must be just the right thickness for it. So that's 4 tags punched. The rest will be journaling cards. So I'll need my corner rounder. I should always know where my corner rounder is, shouldn't I? It should be right on my desk at all times because I use it so often. So I'm just using the smallest one. I like the look of something nice and crisp and square, but the round corners are pretty practical when you're putting stuff in and out of a pocket. So I just use the smallest one for most things. And when you use something to square them up, this punches pretty well. If your corners are square, 90 degrees, you do need to get the punch seated, the piece of paper seated right down into the punch for it to do a good punch. So if you have trouble, try doing it looking at the bottom of the punch. So there's 4 journaling cards and 4 tags. We'll see how far we get with this. So the whole thing that intrigued me about the way that she was collaging was that she was doing layers. I'm going to start with a wide one. So she started with just a full sheet of book page, not a collage of book page. So hers was a little different in that regard. But then she took, because this had square, straight edges, the next layer that she did would have torn edges and be almost completely covering the card, which I tend to not want to do. I want to see what's underneath, right? But it turned out so cool, I thought I've got to try it. So she took some scraps that were almost the width of her card. Now this is, to me, still a little too wide, so I'm going to take this and tear it. And I'm obviously going to need more if I'm going to do all 4 cards. So I'm just going to keep tearing it all the way down. I might have to still tweak it, but this will give me a little strip that I can use somewhere else. And I'll need to tear the bottom edge here. It's that same scrap conundrum. So this is some sort of packaging paper, and it's got this really neat dimpled, like square dimples almost in it. I just love this stuff. So we're going to put that on, and I will do it with glue stick. Something to glue on. What is this? Just a brochure from the local utility company, from the junk mail. So we're going to put our glue stick up about maybe a 1/4 inch so we get lots of glue coming off, and it's nice and warm in here today, so I'm getting a fair bit of glue because this has got a texture on the back, so I want to get it into some of those pockets and right out to the edge. And today I'm going to try it without the tacky glue. Quite often I go around the edges of everything with tacky glue. And I would also be inclined to ink, but I'm going to not ink this layer. And then just pressing it down, but not so hard that you're getting rid of the dimples. You want the dimples. So that looks good. And then I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this wallpaper next because this is smooth. This is wallpaper that used to be in my kitchen. I have a willow tree in my front yard. Well, it's by my porch. I don't know if you would call it front yard or backyard, but it's by my porch. And it was one of the main reasons I wanted to buy the house, because I love this willow tree. And so I wanted to bring that inside. So this was the first wallpaper that I put in my kitchen when we moved in here. It's just what's left over of it. I took it down a few years ago. I needed to freshen it up. So it's just painted walls right now. But I do love this vintage green color and the beige background. So because this, I'm going to do torn edges again, and I probably will do torn edges for all of them because I prefer torn edges. This one, because I've got the white underneath coming through. Actually, I think I'm going to try the green ink that Wanda sent me with this. And I'm also going to try the little inker she sent me. So this is Distress Ink, Ranger Distress Ink Peeled Paint, and it's a Tim Holtz product. And it's a beautiful mossy green that will go really well with this. In fact, I might want to ink the outside edges of the card with this too. It's just almost perfect for this. It has a plasticky layer on the surface of the wallpaper, so it might not ink those spots very well, like here, where there isn't any paper. But most of these edges have just a little bit of the paper showing, so it'll grab the ink. So what I found intriguing about this is just the fact that she's basically almost completely covering every layer that she put down. And it looked good. It's not the way that I normally collage, so I wanted to try it. I could probably just wet this wallpaper and stick it down, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put glue on it. Lots of glue around the edges. And layer that on top. And I'm not even worried. In fact, I'm going to intentionally put it off of the brown paper up in this corner so that I'm not trying to create a symmetrical centered thing. I'm trying to leave little glimpses of each layer showing. It's more my intention here. And then the next layer that I want to do is this white wallpaper, which is called Anaglypta wallpaper. And it's that textured stuff. It's paintable. It's pre-pasted as well. But again, I'm not going to use the pre-pasted aspect of it. I'm going to cut this a little narrower again. Let's see if I can get 3 whole flowers. I'm going to go ahead and rip it all the way down and just see what I want to do here. I want to go over to the side. Still want to see the brown paper, so I don't want to cover too much. I guess I'll get these 3 almost complete flowers. And I want some of this beaded edging as well to be in there. And I'm going to move this one down a bit, but still be able to see everything. And I'll use the green ink around it too. It might look more interesting if I used a different, actually it would look more interesting if I used a different ink. So let's use the vintage photo on it. That's not very torn, is it? Yeah, that looks good. If I inked the brown paper, I would have had to use ground espresso for it to show up. I think it shows up, the brown paper shows up fine without inking. And then I'm just going to lightly go over these beads so that they are accentuated and seen more. And same on the flowers, just to give it, to show off the texture a little bit. And then I'll glue that down. I like the way this is turning out so far. Look at how it transferred the ink out onto my glue page. It's not archival, that's Distress Ink. So that's why I was saying in the last video that I did with the glue over top of the napkins to make like a rice paper. If you're going to stamp on anything first before you use wet glue, use the archival ink because it'll run. And I'm going to move that one over to the side a bit. And then I thought I would add a little something on the very top. And one thing that I've been meaning to use and haven't done it yet is the little people and vintage photos that I've been sent in swaps, mostly. I'll find one that's just right for it here. Got a lot of little portraits, which I will probably use to make ID tags. They're neat. But I've got also these, what we call paper dolls, Tim Holtz paper dolls. I don't know if these are Tim Holtz or not. I got them in a swap, so I'm not sure if they're from Temu or from Timmy. But I thought I would do something like that on here for the top layer. And maybe just some bits of string or something poking out underneath it. I've got the green accent in the background, so what about some green thread? This is thread that I got from somebody's old sewing box, very, very old sewing box. And it's just not very strong, so I won't use it for thread. I won't use it for binding books. Like, it's pretty easy. I probably could have just, you can just tear it off easily. So it's only really good for this kind of artsy stuff. So I'm just gonna put like a little bit of it there underneath him. So for that, I will use my tacky glue. So I'm just gonna put a little daub of it here to kind of anchor the threads. And then I'm gonna ink or glue him up pretty good. I'm not inking around his edges because he's pretty much dark all the way to the edges already. And I'm just putting a fair bit of glue because it's got to stick down through that thread. So a little bit more gobby than I would normally do. And just put him right between the beads and the flowers so we can still see both, and he can be floating off to the bottom here. There. And then if I want those other strings tacked down a bit more, I can put a little bit more glue where they're going. Once they're embedded in the glue, they'll stay put. I'll just sort of push that down. It wants to come back up because my finger's gluey. That's where I need my silicone tool, and I haven't been able to find it. It's here somewhere. But playing hide and seek with me right now. It's time to clean off the desk when that starts happening. I do have this one. It's a silicone tool too. This is like a facial scrubber. I had two of them in the cupboard and I wasn't using either one of them, so I thought, well, I'll bring one out. There, that works better because it doesn't stick to this. Okay, so that's number one, and I think I will distress it in the green around the edges. I do like the way that turned out. Like I say, I've had these little people, the paper dolls, and I haven't used them. Today's the day. And I've been wanting to do some things with colored ink. And for a vintage feel, I wouldn't want to use a bright color, but this is good. This ties the green wallpaper in, the green string. And I like this dauber. It's easy to hold on to. And I'll just do the back side as well. Get a little bit of the green coming onto the back, and it's getting the edge of the cardstock completely colored when you do both sides. have to do a journal in this style, or a flip-flop folio or something in this style. Oh, I like the way he turned out. Very cool. That would make a good look for an altered trading card too, or an artist trading card, although it's hard to do with such a small background. It's easier with a bigger card. So we'll set that aside for a minute, and let's do another one. That was on book page, so let's do one on music, and I thought I would add some pink to this one. So I probably won't be using the green. Maybe I'll use, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. I think I'll start with the same background here. And this time I will do the inking on this just to show you the difference. So I wouldn't bother trying to do it with vintage photo. It's not dark enough. I know that from experience. So I'll go to the ground espresso, which you'll be able to see against this brown paper. You can kind of see the vintage photo on the brown paper, but not really well. So if you want a more subtle look, you could try the vintage photo. Like, it'll give you this. It's just barely coloring it. Whereas I really want to see that antiquing on the brown. There's a woman in at least one of the Facebook groups that I'm in that posts a picture almost every day, just like I post a video almost every day. And hers are all very dark and grungy. Like, everything she does is like a lot of black and dark browns and rough torn things. And I really admire her style. It's not a style that I would find pleasure in doing, but I enjoy seeing her work, if that makes sense. I think it's Lisa Fournier or something like that. And I really enjoy seeing her work every day. So Lisa, if you're watching, I'm a fan. Doesn't mean I have to do the same thing. I just enjoy seeing what you do. I'm going to put this sort of off in one corner so that I've got a fair bit of the music showing. And give it a little rub down. I'm going to put, I think I'll put pink next. I've got this pink envelope that I stenciled on. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding my words. So I'll find a piece. That rose is nice. I just wanted to do some pink with the beiges. I always love that look. Actually, that has nice semi-crisp edges at the top and side there. Maybe I'll use those. That was one thing that this person that I was inspired by, she was alternating the torn edges and straight edges. Now I can still tear, but tear it straight. That's what I'll do instead of cutting it. Just a little narrower. So a trick for that, when you're trying to rip off a really narrow strip, put your ruler down on top of what you're trying to tear off and pull with the bigger piece, and it'll go easier for you. It's hard to tear off little narrow strips. Okay, so this, where do I want this? I think I want to see all of the rough edges, so I'm going to put that sort of there, but that definitely needs some ink. So I'm using the vintage photo for this because it will show up, and the ground espresso might be too dark for this. And now I'm really thinking, do I want this next? Because if I put the anaglypta over top of it, I'm going to cover most of it up. Maybe what I'll do is I'm going to stay the course. Find a spot that's not gluey. That has some wonky edges there. Do I need to get rid of those? Yeah, I do. Just gonna tear them off if they'll tear off. It's just where the envelope was folded. This is giving me very sticky fingers. I'm gonna leave that one little torn spot. So I'm gonna put this here so I can still see all of the edges of the brown. Wipe my fingers because they're all covered in glue now. And then instead of putting a big piece over top of this, that was the cover for my camera. Instead of putting pieces over top of this, I'm going to find the strip that I tore off and layer that beside it instead. That's more back to how I normally do things, but we're gonna do it anyway, because I really want that pink to be more visible, the rose. And then I will find another little person, maybe a little girl this time. Linking this up with the vintage photo. I do like the look of the white done with the darker ink, but I'm just not doing it that way today. Put this down. Just up the side here. I can barely see the texture, so I'm just going to go over it with the inker. And then let's see who we've got here. We've got a little girl. In a frock. We've got a little girl with a baby doll. That's cute. Let's use her. And what will we put anything else poking out from underneath her? Have her just slightly overlapping the white. And then maybe a little bit of lace doily, or maybe another piece of the anaglypta, just to have a little bit more laciness. Actually, if I put it up here, kind of frame her a little bit. Use up these scraps. Oops, my arm right in my glue. And then this, I'm just gonna run across the top of the glue stick like that. Put that right across the top there. And then, do I have any pink string? Of course, the pink string isn't going to show up against the pink paper. Maybe what I need is more brown string. There's some coffee colored. It's got a little bit of a green tinge to it. Let's take just a little bit of this. The other thing you could do is some coffee dyed gauze or something like that. And again, just put down a little bit of glue to grab that string. I'm going to just have a little bit going out in one direction here. Put that down. Get that string going into where the glue was. And then glue her up pretty thick. got two bumpy things that it's going over. It's going over the string, and then it's going over the anaglypta on the one side there. And I don't use a lot of words on my journaling cards or my tags, but you could add a little sentiment or word if you wanted to. I do have some pink ones. I don't know if I have green ones. Let's just take a look. I haven't done that in a while either, so. Words and quotes, natural colors. Pink ones, blue ones, mauve ones. I don't have any green ones. That's something I probably should do, is print myself some green background words. But these neutral ones might work for that one. And I want to ink the outside edge of this card too. Let's see what kind of word we might have in pink. She's got a baby, so baby doll. You got this. That would be a good one for a new mom. This too shall pass. You are doing great. I think you got this. Works for her. And for him, he's just sort of chilling. He's all dressed up with his hat on and everything. Where would he be going? Maybe smile, because he's not smiling. Actually, you can. Breathe. Looks like he's dressed up for church and feels like he can't breathe in his suit. Actually, it says breath, not breathe. I'm not using that. It's probably supposed to say breathe. What else have we got here for him? Don't hold back. You got this. I could put the same thing. You got this. Find your fire. Love yourself more. Know thyself. Live in the moment. Persist. Pile those up over there. Okay, so you got this. Can go where? Down here. I don't like to see them like this or like this or like this. I like them down in a corner, or, you know, not interfering with the visual masterpiece you just did. Dark ink on this so it stands out a bit. In fact, what I sometimes like to do is take these and back them with another piece of paper so they have even more presence. So let's do that. Just take a little piece of this, and with the dark ink, that. layer that there. Doesn't have to be centered or anything. It can be kind of haphazardly layered on top of that. And then take this whole thing and glue it down, and it'll just give that word a little more presence on the page. More integrated with the collage too. And then this, I think I want to ink. I think I'm going to ink it in the dark ink. Just giving her a little bit of pressure there so she stays glued down. And the back side. The file folder is fine for writing on, so I'll just leave it plain on the back. I don't usually do much to the back of my journaling cards. You could do a little stamp or put something in the corner. In fact, maybe what I'll do, just because I don't usually, just to do something different, is take some of the scraps that I used on the front and just do a little edge with them. And again, that uses up those scraps that we're going to end up cluttering up your scrap bin. I've got a straight edge and I'm going to keep it this time. And just put this up the side. Put it over here. Doesn't need it, but it uses up the scraps. And then I can do the same thing with the roses paper. Did I ink it with the dark? No, I inked it with the lighter one. Just so that the back isn't so plain. And like I say, normally I don't. On my artist trading cards, I put my little Thistledew Creations logo, but I don't usually put anything on the back of a journaling card or a tag that's going into a journal, but there's no reason you can't. And just layer that one on top. I could put a little bit of Anaglypta too, but I don't have a little scrap of Anaglypta. But I can make one. Just to complete my trio of things. Did I do that in the dark? I think I did. This looks darker this time. For a bit of glue. Yeah, I think I definitely inked that with the other color before. There, so that just uses up some scraps and sort of decorates the back a little bit. I'm pretty happy with that card. One thing that I could add is like a tab or something. I've got this tab that I got in a swap. It's kind of black and gold, two of them. I could use that. That maybe go better on this one. No, I think I'm going to use it on the girl. Put that down. What's going on here? It was two kind of glued together, but not quite. Maybe it was like a post-it sort of thing. Put that up top here. And I'll glue this one on the back side of it. Is it? Yeah, it's also not quite glued all the way. That's strange. Can't remember who sent me that to ask them. I think I just received it this week, but I received several packages this week and I don't remember who was who. So I'll put those back to back, and that creates like a little tab top so that if it doesn't quite stick out of the pocket by itself, this will give you something to grab to get it out of the pocket. And I like the black accent with the music paper, and I like the black or the little bit of gold with the girl. The polka dots on the front are cute. Stripes I'm not as crazy about, so that's why I put them on the back. But now that's another thing that I got in a swap that was sort of just sitting on my desk, and now it's used. Just keep rubbing with my fingers till that glue balls up and goes away. Somewhere I have some of those glue erasers, but I don't know where they are. I gotta get one out here. But yeah, that's looking better every time I do something to it, isn't it? Cool. Now this little guy is going to persist. And this is starting to curl a little bit. Maybe could have used another layer of backing, but I'm going with this. So this one, I want to do something to the edges of this. I don't just want it square cut. I'm going to use my ripple scissors. This will do two things. It'll make it more interesting, but it'll also make it smaller. And this is just a printable, free printable sheet of words that I printed a bunch of and cut them out. And I actually took the document and manipulated to get the different colors. You can do that if it's JPEG and you have a computer that will let you edit it. You can change the colors of the tags. So that's how I got pink ones and purple ones and blue ones. You go into edit and then you go into tint or something like that, and it changes the tint of it. So persist, what do I want to put that on top of? Maybe some of the green paper so that I get a little bit more of that. So I have a little scrap of it here. And if I do a torn edge at the side and a torn edge just before his feet. And I'm going to use the brown on it this time, even though it's green on the other piece. And I'll glue the word down to the green, and then I'll glue the green down to the card. And I'm actually leaving it sticking up. It's just a little too long. I'll take that a little bit off. That might need tacky glue to get it to stick down because it's going down to that wallpaper and it just doesn't want to stick because it's like a vinyl wallpaper. So I'm just gonna put some tacky glue down and set that back into it. And I find with that kind of stuff too, if you move it back and forth a few times, it works itself into the paper and then it sticks better. I should be able to glue it all down with the glue stick. But before I, use these in a book or send them in Happy Mail, I would just check to see if anything needs a little bit of tacky glue to help it stay stuck down if it's starting to pull up. It looks pretty good right now, like that it's going to stay down, but once everything dries out, it could be a different story. Okay, so then again on the back here, do I want to do some strips? I think I do. So I don't have any more of those scraps, but, well, I do have a strip of this. So I'm going to ink that in the espresso. Just going to Square that off a bit at the bottom. Today is the day. I'm going to get my bucket of paper scraps out. It's been buried under the table where I can't quite reach to throw things in it, because things like that could go in the paper making bucket for sure. This one I'm going to decorate over on this side. Let's start with that textured piece. And then the green wallpaper, I guess. Got a little piece of it here that I can take a bit off of. And again, I'm just using the brown on it this time. And I usually want to do things in threes, things like this. So maybe some anaglypta. Yeah, anaglypta with it. So I'll use this leaf and this little flower. So my project is not really that close to what she did in the end, but the idea of that layering on the front is what I was going for. And then if you find that your cards are curling, get them before they dry and put them underneath something heavy. You want to do that before you put anything like buttons on or anything, because that would be cute too, is a few little buttons in the corner. I do have my buttons handy. Maybe we'll do that. Since we have thread, the buttons kind of make sense. My button jar. See what we've got in here. We've got a nice vintage green. And then we've got some gold ones, but they have shanks and they're metal. The vintage green. And then maybe just a little white one. You know, I really need to probably dump them out, because I know I already have some white ones that aren't strung. Like these are all matching. I don't really want to break them up, because I might want them when I go to do button cards. So I'm gonna have to do this, folks, because the singles are probably all at the bottom. So there's a beigey one, a whitish one, and maybe a little black one would be good too. For him, I like to do little trios. And then for her, you're probably having trouble seeing what I'm doing with all this debris. For her, I think a little pink button for sure. That one's kind of pinkish brown. I think I need a gold one, but I might have to just paint one gold. There's like a little vintage looking button. I'd like them not to all be the same size though. Those ones are pretty much all the same size. A little white one. I had a flat gold one I would use. I actually might be able to use one of these. But yeah, that's a glimpse at my button collection. Only about 1/100th of my button collection. I've been collecting them probably all my life. I started sewing when I was about probably 11. My mom was a sewer, so we always had buttons kicking around. You know, the old cookie tin full of buttons. Cold drink of coffee. Now for the buttons, I usually like to use the 3-in-1. It just holds them down best. So I don't usually like to put them down at the bottom on something like this because they will bulk it up too much. So I think I'm going to do them over here. So I just put a nice little dollop and drop my button into it. That way I don't get too much glue on my fingernails because this is acetone based. Oh, that one's not quite black, it's more blue. That I see it under the light. So just a little, to me, it seems like a vintage touch. I don't know why. These ones I'm going to do in this corner. Let's start with the biggest one. A little bit stringy. Might be time to add some acetone to it. When it gets stringy, it's starting to dry out. Add a little bit of nail polish remover and it turns liquid again. There. Because it is acetone, it dries quick, so you have to clean your cap and put the cap back on. It'll dry right out. Okay, so that's that. And I think I'm going to leave that white button white. So those are two. I think we're going to cut it off here, take a little break, and we'll do some more when I come back. So thanks for watching. If you got this far, you're my favorite. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. But most of all, have a great day and happy crafting.